Wondering how to care for a new gel plate or clean up efficiently after a messy gel printing session with as little waste as possible? I'm in the studio cleaning gel plates after a workshop and prepping them for storage, and I thought it would be useful to invite you along. I'll talk through what I'm doing as I go and share the tools I use so you can see how simple it can be to keep your gel plates in great shape. I'm Melinda. Let's get started in my studio. No waste gel plate cleaning fun. I have 2 plates from the workshop that had very incomplete final pulls. This one looks very dark. This one looks very light. But as you can see on this one, it's more multicolored, if you will, and darker than it would look from this side. And this, unlike this, which must have been pulled with white, was pulled with black, was a lighter colored, what would have been the top layer. Because when you're doing a single pull, you work from the top down. For this, I am going to use a very pale pink, which will be mostly titanium white with a tiny bit of primary red. Start with white. Just want a little tiny bit. A little red can go a long way. Not as far as the blue. Always watch that with your blues. Blues can go an incredible distance. All right, so this is darker than I wanted. As you can see, I'm kind of spurring with the brayer, which may be better with the smaller one. Well, it might be a little darker than I had in mind, but it kind of makes this part blend. So my goal was to do another texture layer. I think I'll use this. This was from Clementine's. To be honest, I'm using this because it was on my desk and I forgot to get out the rest of the texture stuff that was still packed, but this is pretty cool. I wouldn't have thought of it today. All right, we're going to, well, yes, I wish I was using a second plate. Well, third in this case, as a roll-off sheet. We're gonna help this gently because we don't want to pull off too much paint between the strings, netting. Oh, actually, where it's pulled off between looks pretty cool too. So that's some fun texture. This has to totally dry since we're going to be pulling this with another layer. Let's see how this rolls out with its spots. That looked a little too dry by the time I tried to roll it off. So I got a little, not much, and this is still on the brayer. If you want to fact what I do next. So back over here, I'm not really sure, period. Maybe some yellow, because that's a little different. I'll also use the white. There are squares on Liquitex Basics tubes. Liquitex Basics are what I primarily use. In that square, it will tell you how opaque this paint is. This is half a square, so it's not opaque and it's not transparent. It's in the middle. The primary red is the same as is the primary blue. The white, the titanium white, is considered opaque, as is the Mars black. So you have to be aware of that when using them in layers. Not a lot's going to show through a full layer of white or a full layer of black. And if you want to increase the opacity of a layer, adding white not only makes it a tint look lighter, it makes it more opaque. So I think I'm going to go for sort of a variegated yellowy look. I am going to start with my white, so I'll end up with fewer yellow spot right on top. I think I'll stir this. That's more yellow than I wanted. More did come out of the tube than I'd intended. And I'm going to pull a bit of this excess off as before. Instead of rubbing it down firmly, like for a full regular print, just gently. But yeah, that's a lot of excess paint. And instead of just going back over it with this yellow brayer with the darker paint still, it will roll it off. So I said the pink wouldn't affect. That would have been from one of the edges. Sort of tipped sideways while I was doing this. And that's okay. It'll add more fun, interest. So although I was going to add another layer of texture, ew, yeah, I'm going to add more. I don't like that much at all. Too many dark yellow spots. So I will demonstrate one of the things I was going to do later using leftover packaging. We generate so much trash over the holidays. This is plastic wrap type packaging. Crumple it up, pull off paint. So that's what that looks like. Toying with the idea of going with a little blue under here, but I'm so afraid of going too dark. And as I said, blue goes a very long way. Here's another thing I like to do with a secondary, or if you've seen some of my videos in the past, sometimes I'll have as many as will fit under the camera. I love working like that. Don't think I completed that thought. I like to use them as palettes to mix paint. I like to use them to roll off my brayer to create interesting layers. I don't know if you're going to be able to hear the cat that's yowling at me in the background right now. I never intended to have a cat living in the studio, but he is. It's a very cute cat. I mean, mostly pretty good cat, but he's still a cat who unfortunately doesn't seem to be integratable with the cats who live in my home. May have gone a little under on the blue, but that's okay. We're not going to mess with that and end up with too much blue. I need to get a piece of paper on before it gets too dry, or won't adhere enough to pull up the layers underneath. And that is the whole point of a single pull print. This one I was also thinking about a blue. Theoretically, the white in this yellow layer should make it more opaque. The fact that it's super thin could throw that off. And that could also make it look green. But we're going to give it a try. If I put this on super thin, I will have to add another layer to pull this. That is very bright. I was wondering if that blue on the front had actually been mixed with a little black. Had the color pulled back a little. All right, so as you can see, because it's so thin, I am pulling up some of this paint. One of the benefits of using a glass cutting board is you can turn it over and check progress. I don't use a glass cutting board in my videos anymore because of the reflective factor. That's kind of interesting. I think what I will do is go ahead and add a layer of sort of messy white. Pull layers do have to be a little thicker. I believe I mentioned this previously in this video. They have to be a little thicker than what you would use for an image transfer, for example. And they have to be pretty wet when you put on the pull paper. So this had a little more blue in it than I realized. Okay, we'll see how it goes. I do not have my Baron. It's one of my unexpectedly favorite tools. So next, we let this dry. Turning these over for the easier, safer, less curled pull. That's kind of interesting. We did get the other texture up here. I'm not sure how I like it with this, but it's also growing on me. It's different. It's not always about the appearance of the entire print, but parts of it. So regardless of how something turns out and your thoughts about it, it's probably usable. This also is interesting. I think I might like this one better. Again, it has really interesting different spots. Despite the fact that the yellow is in front of the blue and the white, it does remind me of a sky. They're both interesting with lots of texture and layers. Now you may look at something like this and not be impressed. That's okay. You can't really get art paper wrong. Yes, sometimes you will have something that you love as a complete piece on its own. Sometimes you will have something that adding some detail makes it a piece you will like, and others become either backgrounds or are torn up, cut up to make collage or other mixed media, or in my case, also put under small pieces of glass. So if you hate a paper, remember you have some options. I would suggest setting it aside and seeing how you feel about it later. There's also testing how it looks in the frame. Seeing it like this gives it a completely different feel. You can also have smaller frames like this. Maybe a certain part of it will strike you as something you want to keep. But typically, these are to make other things. So the whole thing doesn't have to be something you love. It can be about the pieces that make up the whole. Let me show you some options for cleaning up bits like this when you don't want to do another pull. You don't want these to affect your next pull, or if you're just cleaning up, packing tape is your friend. And for those of you at my last workshop, you know it's also very useful for stickers and bookmarks. Quick and easy. Clean the edge. These plates were new at the workshop. So the tape is particularly good for crusty bits, and it will help you have fewer little bits of paint to deal with on your work surface, getting stuck back on your plate. Between the paint and any dust that may be there and the oils from the plate, the tape does not have unlimited use, which may be a consideration for you. One useful way to deal with more smeary paint as opposed to the chunkier is another of those things important to have in a mixed media studio, the humble but useful baby wipe. I typically don't do the baby oil or mineral oil rub down on such new plates. but it's a good one before you pack them away. This is something that is great not only for little bits like this, which you could also do with a baby wipe, but also when you are getting ready to store your plates after they've been heavily used. This could get away without having it done yet, but you also notice your plates will discolor over time. An occasional mineral oil or baby oil bath is a good thing. I find it easiest to first work it in with the fingers. You'll notice if your plate has gotten a little grungy that the oil will be picking that up. As mentioned, these are relatively new plates. Well, quite new plates. They've been being used for the workshops. Rub it around. I prefer shop towels for the next step of wiping down. I might not have quite enough to make this work really well with the, you might need a little more on it, but it depends on how much you applied to the surface of the plate. If you don't have, okay, this was just for planning. I'm tearing that up. Let's flip this around. I could have gone a little heavier on the oil. So as well as taking off thin paint. If you don't like that extra layer of sort of grungy texture, or if you're packing them away for a bit, as mentioned, as they discolor and get grungy, give them a little bath. And here we are back to a reason I really like to use the packing tape, is you'll see that there are little pieces that get stuck on the surface. They get on my work surface and then stick to the plate again. And I don't want to put plates away with little bits of things stuck to them to potentially damage the surface. So typically, before I would use baby oil, I'd use tape on anything noticeable, and it's also great for afterward. Make sure we're not putting things away with little bits that could damage the surface. Back to applying the paper. This is just regular printer paper. Ready to pack back up to await the next workshop. Classroom sets of gel plates come in cardboard boxes with typical plastic film between them that you're supposed to discard and not store your plates with. As you can see, these have been put away with simple printer paper, which is a great way to store your plates. The typically recommended way, because these don't come in clamshells, and I don't particularly care for them, I don't think they're sturdy enough. They crack. I've used Ranger metal storage, but in my kits, you get a plastic storage case, which perfectly holds 2 5x7 gel plates. Here's how easy it is to prep your plate for storage. Quick and easy gel plate sandwich. Place it in the storage container, as mentioned, to stack nicely. And that's all there is to it. If it doesn't get too wrinkled, you can reuse the paper. As well as using acrylic paint, you can also use acrylic medium to pull layers off your plate in a typical pull or to clean. I have Liquitex matte medium and golden gloss medium. They were the closest to hand. I haven't noticed an appreciable difference between the golden and Liquitex mediums. Okay, I don't always put right in the middle. And As you can see, it's not coming out very well. It can dry a little on the inside, and then those little globby bits get stuck. Get a very even coat and pay close attention to the corners. Don't let it dry. I'm using matte medium on this one because I am the most interested in this one, and I totally forgot to flip it over to show you the comparison. As you saw, that was quite black, but a layer of roll-off white had been put on first. As I mentioned earlier, when you're working with a single pull, you're working from the top down. So your bottom layer on the plate will be the top layer of your print. I'm not sure I got that corner very well. I'm gonna just spread it out, but we'll see how it goes. I'm being a little too rushing. It's actually been long enough that I've done the other workshop. I haven't even started the using Christmas leftover wrapping paper and things on the gel plate. I'm grabbing another brayer so you can see there's absolutely nothing left from the matte in the gloss. The reason I don't typically use the gloss is, well, I don't like the glossier finish typically. And it also has more of a tendency to leave sort of streaks. That can cause areas of more and less shininess. And again, I forgot to flip it over to show the difference on what was closest to the plate. I prefer the matte medium for the matte finish. However, the gloss medium more consistently pulls everything. And yes, my nails are gross. Actually, as you may have noticed, my cutting board is much neater. Alcohol. I used isopropyl alcohol on that. It's time to let these dry. A good rule of thumb for evaluating whether or not your paper is dry enough is if it still feels quite cool to the touch. I'm turning this over as mentioned earlier. It can be much easier on the paper to take the plate off the paper as opposed to the other way around. I don't know if it's a matter of it not being dry enough or not having thick enough medium in this area, but I did leave a little paint on the plate. This did a decent job. Not great. Part of that was user error. I didn't notice this little chunk that was on the plate. So the paper didn't actually touch because it was raised up with that. Still an interesting spot. And the next one, and I have, I'm not too sure about this. It's still feeling damp, but it's raising. Oh, wow. You know what I said about gloss medium typically being the most consistent? This one was totally not consistent. I mean, it's a very interesting paper, but I don't like how it's shiny in places. It is still wet, so that's on me. But we'll try this again. I'll go ahead and use the gloss medium again. I'll let it dry a little longer. It did go on a little thicker. But it wasn't just a matter of application. I don't think there's any good way to show you. Well, that's a decent way to show you how the brayer looks textured. That's how it looks on the plate also. So another thing about using the gloss medium to pull a print or clean the plate. Again, it causes an irregular sheen. But I will let that sit longer this time. I need to wipe this brayer off. I'll go back to the handy dandy baby wipes. While that dries, I'm going to go ahead and have fun cleaning some more plates. This one someone used on one side and flipped it over and used the other side. So I think I might pull both sides on one piece of paper. I'm going to go back to the matte medium, which reminds me, another invaluable tool in my mixed media studio, large coated paperclip. If you are going to be like me and use acrylic mediums and buy them in the large containers and decant them into inexpensive condiment bottles, you'll also want to have some of these around. Sometimes I store them with the paper clips right in them, but I don't always remember that. So invaluable tools in my studio would be, as mentioned, large coated paper clips. But that's a more limited usefulness. Shop towels, isopropyl alcohol. It's great for cleaning acrylic paints off things, as well as creating fun textures. More in painting than on the gel plate. Packing tape has definitely risen through the ranks of tools with usefulness. Water spray bottle. This still feels cooler than I would like. So again, I will be back. So back to pull these and take a look back at what we made. I know I put this on camera earlier when I was talking about getting the larger containers and decanting. The golden satin glazing liquid is what I use for my adhesive, almost exclusively in my translucent layer collages. It doesn't stick to my fingers like other options. Second pull of this one. I should have let it dry a little longer, but I'm out of time and wanted you to see the effect. So before I pull this one, taking a look back at the other papers from this cleaning session spread out over, well, at least 3 filming days. This took up most of the dark stuff, leaving the lighter stuff behind, which was cool, but frustrated me with the gloss medium. The cassettes with the matte medium has a more even surface as far as glossiness or matte. The black and white, to be honest, I would have loved to have this black, but the white was already on the plate. The yellow I fought with the texture, but it came out pretty cool. The sky, cloudy sky look behind it. Fun layers, more interesting layers. It has kind of a lot going on, but I don't know. I still like it despite my original, ooh, there's a lot of different things going on. We have stripes and netting. This that just had way too much paint. This was pulling off excess paint, I believe. Roll-off sheet, which may not have been from this video. My desk is a little chaos, and there may be some more roll-off sheets that I'm not sure from this or previously. Here's a reminder that sometimes when it looks like there's not much interesting left, doing a pull with a transparent medium of a plate you know you've been using, this didn't pull up all those marks. These marks will have to be cleaned off with the mineral oil or baby oil. But look at just the interesting coloration that was left. That's a really interesting paper. A gently stormy sky. Wow, I probably should have taken the time to scrub my fingers, but I did not take the time. Finishing the video felt more important. If you have found value in this video, please be sure to give me a like. Kind, curious, constructive comments are always welcome and help me reach more people. I hope to be back soon with another video. It has been some time since I've been able to be consistent with my video making, but here I am, moving forward. I hope you found these tips useful. Packing tape, baby wipes, mineral oil, baby oil, plain old printer paper. The best ways to clean and maintain your gel plates, along with another pull layer of paint or acrylic medium for as little waste as possible and more interesting prints.